Sir, please, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying, we are trying to look over the subject of local storage, how we use local storage and what it is used for. I want to conclude on this so that we can use it to build a to-do app and proceed. Now, what we basically do is local storage is a kind of and I call it a backend that's provided by JavaScript. JavaScript provides it such that you can store information in there and you can retrieve the information. So how do we store items in local storage? The syntax of storing items in local storage is on line 93. And what we'll do is basically this. We write windows.localstorage.set item, and we call the first one is the key, and the second one is the item we want to store. Now, why do we need this key? Let me show you. We need this key such that when next we want to retrieve this item we stored, when next we want to retrieve it, we can just call the key. This first place I'm storing in local storage. I'm adding to local storage. Or let me just say add to storage. And here I am retrieving from storage. I'm retrieve from storage. Okay. So I'm retrieving. And how do you retrieve from storage? You just write get item, and you successfully retrieved it. But for retrieving it, we are retrieving it because we want to use it for another operation in our app. Let's say we want to use it somewhere. We want to display the Toyota. We're fetching it. If I use the word fetch, it still means the same thing as collecting or retrieving. We're fetching it from like a storage bank, and what we'll be using it to do, probably display it. So if I want to display it, which means I have to store it to a variable in order to use it. The reason why, let me say car model, let me just call it car. Okay. All right, so I have a variable called car. What I basically did was I retrieved this from local storage. And if you want to retrieve, all you need to do is to put in the key. Once I have the key, I have access to the value that is stored in that key. So this key is like something used to store it. So once I go, so in this case on line 94, if you notice, it is not stored in a variable. Yes, makes sense. The reason why it is not stored because I'm just throwing it inside, like I'm throwing it inside a bank to be saved. Now, on the other hand, now want to retrieve it. If I'm retrieving it, I want to store it to a variable such that I can use it to do something else. Let's say after line 97, I want to console log this car. Console.log, the car is saved. If I console log this car, because I have this value stored in it, and remember this value is actually Toyota because this is just the key, and this is the value. So if I do this, let me, first of all, I've shown you before, successfully stored this. Now I want to retrieve it back. If I refresh my browser on this line 99, you see it's displayed on the console as Toyota. So let's go ahead and see. Okay, so I refresh, it was stored. But if I come to console, I refresh again, and I see Toyota. What it did was you just went there, collected what I stored. Look at it on this line 98. Sorry for all these ones that are displaying here. I'll comment them out. So it just went there, collected what I stored and displayed on my console. So that is how we retrieve data from local storage. Then how do we delete data or remove data from local storage? The same thing. Let me copy this code or copy this one. This one looks very similar. Okay. I copy this. I'm removing from local storage. Remove. If I want to remove this item from local storage, I need to come here and say remove item, remove item, remove item. And what item do I want to remove? All I need to do is to enter the key of the item I want to remove. If I run this code, this item will no longer be in the local storage. So let me run them one after the other. Comment this out. Let me leave these two. Okay. All right. So first of all, we'll refresh our browser. As retrieved. This is it here. So if I go ahead and remove this, which is the last action I take here, go ahead and remove it. I see that I have cleaned this. So let me refresh my again. Yeah. So I think because because I'm doing the let me comment it out. Yeah, comment this one out first. Run the other one again. Let's see what we get. We've stored, we've retrieved. And how do we know we've stored? If you come to application, you see it here, model. Okay, so it's stored there already. So let me comment it out because it is already stored there. And it is, even if I close my browser and open it, it will still be stored there. If I close my browser and open it, it will still be stored there. For example, I close this. Okay, don't want to close it. If I close it, if you come back to application, you still see it here. Now, if I want to remove from the local storage, see what now happens. I want to remove from the local storage. Okay, so let me uncomment this and refresh again. You see that my car model will disappear from local storage, it's no longer here. So if I go back and try to get from local storage, it will not return any value because I have removed it from local storage. So I can successfully do this. So if I refresh and go back to console, it's not output, it's outputting null because I've deleted it from local storage. So this is how you add, you retrieve, you delete from local storage. Now from our examples, we're only adding a string to Toyota. But as I said before, you can add anything in local storage. You can add a string, you can add an array or anything. Now, before I continue, let me point out something. Each time, I know we've done something about DOM and the Windows object. The Windows object is like a big object. Let me show you something. The Windows object is like a big object. Go ahead and say window. Like a big object. Okay. So if you refresh, so this is the whole window. Let me comment out these things that are. Okay, so I have this big Windows object. Yeah, 951. So in this big Windows object, we have different methods. One of the methods is local storage. So whenever you want to call something that is appended or that is a property of the Windows object, you don't need to use Windows here and safely remove the Windows and just type local storage. So that's what I wanted to point out. So we don't need to be typing Windows, just type straight local storage and you're good to go. So that's to show you that the local storage itself comes default in JavaScript. It's like a method that is inbuilt into the Windows object that comes with JavaScript. All right. So we've seen how to remove, but how about us storing something like an object or an array? That is what I wanted us to look into. The first instance, we stored just a car. Let's say we want to store an object, for example. So we want to store car array. Let me say car array. Okay. So how do we store an array? But whatever I want to store, it must be in a string format. Let me say I want to store a car array. Okay, instead of doing this here, let's first of all declare a variable car array. Car array. I want to store different cars in. Let's say Benz. Let's say let's say Honda. Okay, so I have three cars in there. Now, if I want to store this variable in my local storage, after entering the key I want to use in storing them, the key, I can use any key. I can use any name here. If I want to use the same car array, no problem. So I can use any name. So I decide to use a car types, any name. It's up to you. It's like a key that you're creating, but just always remember it whenever you want to call it back. Of course, it will be there. Okay, so all I need to do is to pass the array I want to store. I want to store car array. Then let's see what happens. I will tell you why it shouldn't be done this way. So let's see. If I store it, I can go ahead and call it. See, in these two cases, okay, we are storing two things now. Remember, set item car model, set item car type, car type. So let's call the both of them. So I have two. I have first one car model. Let me call it car model. And I have the next one car type. So different items that I've stored in local storage. And also, these variable names, you're free to give it any variable name of your choice. It must not be the same thing with the key specified here. In order to specify that, in order to emphasize that, maybe I will change this to car model results or something. Car model results, car type results. Okay, I like to do this so don't think. And when you're going over the lesson again, you don't get confused. Car model results. Car type results. Okay, so in these two cases, let's see what we get. So we are storing two things in local storage. The two of them have two different, they must have two unique keys. The first key is this one is okay. I won't enter car type. Look at car type. Okay. All right. So if I go ahead and refresh, okay, so I have it here. Then if I go ahead and application, so I have two things, car type and car model. These are two different things I have stored in my local storage. So you can go ahead and store as many things as you want. If I create another object, I can store objects, store anything, they will all appear there. Now, if I want to delete everything stored in my local storage, in this instance, we are deleting just an item using the key. But let's say I want to remove everything stored in my local storage. All I need to do is to go and remove all from storage. Okay, so I want to remove everything from storage. Just go local storage, clear, use the method, the clear method. It gives us a clear method. You don't need to put anything in here. Just go to clear everything from the local storage. So now I have them stored. So if I have to comment this out so that they don't get stored again after deleting them. So if I refresh my page, you notice I don't have them anymore here. So if I go to console.log, it's supposed to give me, if I refresh, it's not fetching anything again from local storage. So this becomes null because they are all been cleared. So this is how you store in local storage. But one thing that I want us to note is this. One thing I want us to note is this. In storing, as I said, local storage stores only in string format. It stores only in string format. And one of the challenges with that is whenever your items are stored in string format, they are strings. So you can't use array methods on them. But what we have there is an array, and what we want local storage to return to us is an array. But in this case, it's returning a string. How do I know it's returning the string? You can do type of here and find out what it's returning. But there is a way we can make local storage store and we get back what we store. What we do is we first of all turn this into a string, into a JSON, into a JavaScript object notation, or short form, let me just say turn it into a string so that it's recognized by the local storage methods that comes with Windows. That is inbuilt into Windows by JavaScript. All right. So how do I do this? My car array. The first thing I'll do is there's a method called JSON.stringify. Now, what JSON.stringify does is, if you read here, it says a JSON is usually an object and array to be converted. So what it basically does is it converts anything you enter here into a JSON format. JSON means JavaScript object notation, or literally speaking, into a string. For example, this I've entered this. So if I stringify it, I'm stringifying car array. So if I stringify car array, I can assign it to a value. I can say const stringified car array. All right. So my stringified car array is now this. So let's console log that stringified car array and see what it looks like. Console.log. Stringified car array. So on line 97, I'm supposed to get a stringified car array. So let's see. Let me refresh. Let's see. Okay, see the difference. See what I have here now. This is stringified. If you check the type of what it does is, see what it does in the background. This is what happens. It collects this array and just puts it in a quotes as if it is converting it into a string. This is what it does behind the scene. It puts that array between between two quotes. And you know, whenever I use a quote to cover something, so this now big. Whenever any data type is enclosed in a quote, it is automatically a string. See, this is what happens behind the scene. So what it's doing here now, if you store this in local storage now knows that you're storing a string. So when we want to retrieve it now, all we'll be doing is to remove that string and we'll have our array back the way we served it to local storage. All right. So this is what happens behind the scene. Now, so which means if I want to now store it in local storage, instead of storing this one directly, I can now store the stringified car array. And if I store the stringified car array, it is stored. If I want to retrieve it back, I'm retrieving it back on line 108. So let's see, instead of having it like this, see the way it's written like this on line 108, Benz, Toyota, this, we'll now have it back in this format, the way we sent it to the browser. So if I refresh, you see, it has now changed back. So I can now do whatever I want with this, like apply an array method, because it is an array. It is back in its original format. On line 97 was its original format. On line 108 was after we stored and retrieved, but converted it back to its original format. So these are for anything, even an object, we treat an object the same way. So if this was an object, the same thing will happen. All stringify does is it will now put sorry. One more thing that I want you to note. After we retrieve this array type, if you check the type here, it is still a string. It is still appearing like how I deleted before. It's still appearing like this. It's still appearing like this. This is how it's still appearing, even on this line. So in order to take it back to the default behavior, for the on line 97, it is an array, but on this line 108, it's a string, because local storage serves what it serves in that is the default behavior, is a string. So in order to convert it back to the form it was before it was served into storage, we now have to use this place. We use JSON.stringify to stringify it, to turn it into a string. Now here we'll now use JSON.parse. What it does is, as the name implies, it will convert it back, remove remove the quotes that were added to it, and convert it back to the original format that it was, which is an array. All right. So on this line now, it is now an array. So if I go ahead and okay, let me do something. Okay, let me just, okay, instead of assigning it to a variable again as I did for stringify, I can just copy this code, this one here. See, just follow me, copy it here. So I come here and I say, okay, and I say, instead of doing that, I can come on this line and I say JSON dot, okay, let me leave it the way it was so I don't confuse everybody. Okay, so what I did is I've retrieved it on this line, I've converted it back to the way it was on this line. So here now it is how it was. So let me, if I can give it something, I can say const equal to what, um okay, equal to the other one was, this one was the stringified car array, the let me see, car type array. Okay, so if I go ahead and console log this now, here I'll have car type. So let me do something. Let me leave the car type and the car type array. So just prove to you that they are two different things. Array. Okay, just to prove to you that there are two different things. On the console, it might not appear that way, but okay. Which on line 97. Yeah, let me remove this. I'm not using it anymore. Okay. So if I do this, car type array is not defined. Car type array. Car type result. Okay, car type result. Right. So car type result array. Am I not getting the spelling right? Type. Okay. All right. See the difference now. This line 111, which is this, is not an array. Now, this line on line 112 is an array. As you can see, it is already, thank God for JavaScript console that gives us this array. This means that there are three items in the array, and this is the index 0, 1, but you can't see that on line 111. So on this line, it has been converted, and why it was converted was this was what helped our conversion. Yeah. So this whole thing I wrote here, I can as well copy it like this, okay, and console log it directly here instead of saving it to a variable. But before I do that, is it understood to this point, please? Any questions? I need to hear from you. Hello.
Yes, please, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just as to store this car model to Toyota, what if you want to store the year, and let me say you want to store the year, will you store it on the same disk local storage, or will you open another one and store it inside?
Okay, it depends on how you want to use your storage. Let me give you an example. We don't have one key that opens two vehicles or two doors. So what I'm saying is that it depends on how you want to group your data. This car model is the key to what you've stored here called Toyota. So if you want to, you can store anything you want to store in here, but the only key you use in storing it. So if you want to store that, you have to, if you use car model to store it, they will all be stored inside car model. But if you need the data for different things, you have to store them differently. Like if you want to store car model, you want to store car year, the year of the car, you can come and say car year. Another one, car year, maybe the year the car was manufactured. You write 2055. So this will be stored as car year. But if you use car model to store it, it will override what was stored there before, because what you had there before was Toyota, and now you're storing something else there to override it. It's like the way it is structured, you cannot store different variables, different values using the same key. So you have to use different keys to store them. Now, instead of you doing that, why not store it inside an object? If you store all of them inside an object, then you have one key that can access that object. Like if I go ahead and say car, this our section will soon finish here. Car, and I have an object. You know the way object works. I have a name, I have a year, I have a brand, I have everything. Then I store it using a key with a car. Does that make more sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So we just okay. So let me just go ahead and do it before our time runs. So let me say name. Call it Hyundai. Okay, as I said before, that we can here we stored a value, then we store then let's store an object, a typical object. Of course, an array is still an object, but let's store, let's say say a class, say so instead of having different keys to store each of these items, I can put them in an object and store them using a single key. Yeah. So I have here, I have a 2021. Okay. All right. So I've stored this car. Now I will have to repeat the same process of stringifying it. But this time around, yeah, the same process of stringifying it. So in order to save it to local storage, we have how many items now we're saving to local storage? You are saving a car model, you are saving a car type. Yes, let me just delete this. So we are saving a car type. All right. So let's say a car brand. All right. So I will say local storage dot set item. I give it a key. For that key, car brand. Has to be in string. Sorry. Okay. Then I go ahead. I want to stringify everything in here. I don't want to do it and store it in any variable. So I say dot stringify. Okay, so what am I stringifying? I'm stringifying this my car. So I go ahead and stringify car. Yep. So I've not done anything differently. Instead of storing this in a variable as I did here, I just brought it here directly. So I've been able to stringify it here. Now if I want to call it, retrieve it, go ahead and do the same thing, but I have to store it in the variable. To store it in a variable, say car brand, car brand. Let me just call it car brand. Car brand results. Okay. So the same thing, I'm going to do the same thing here. I don't want to withdraw, I don't want to retrieve and now press. So let me just go ahead and say JSON.press. My bracket, what am I pressing? I'm pressing what I have already retrieved from local storage. When we did the one for car type, we have to retrieve it first, press it, and bring it out. But here I'm doing everything in one line, right? So if I console.log, my console log, um, like, console, that is car brand results. background results, right? Okay, so I should have my objects. So let's refresh and see what we get. If I go back to application, go to my local storage, where is it? Yeah. So I see I have car model, I have car brand, I have car type. As you can see, the car type is an array, in form of an array. Although here in here, they're all strings. This one, the same thing. You see what it did? This is not how I stored my this is not how I stored my object. I don't have quotes in for these names. But see, it's putting quotes for everything. So that is what stringify does. It will put quotes for everything you put in here. So this is a string here. The way you now bring it out on this line now, on line 114, I converted it into the way it was when I entered it in. So if I come here, check, okay. So what do I have? I refresh. Oh, sorry, I'm not calling get item. I didn't call it. I didn't call the model. I just called type. So let me call it model. Just model we used here. Okay. If I call it, I retrieve it. Data is not valid. You see. Okay. It is not allowing me to do this. Then you must bring it out first. Even I think we made a mistake somewhere. Sorry, let me see. Oh, this isn't to you. Oh, car brand. Car brand. I think we made a mistake that we didn't spot somewhere. This my stringified array is actually this. What I want to stringify is this one that has been retrieved from local storage. This car type results, not the stringified. Though it's still giving me uh car type array. Sorry, car type results. Okay. Right, so I refresh. All right, so you see, I have this. This is a string now. This is an array, and this is an object, as you can see, indicated like this. So this is how. So from the question we asked, instead of having different keys for these individual items, I can group them all in an object and store in local storage and retrieve what I want to retrieve. Now, if I want to clear everything in local storage, like I'm clearing everything, I don't want to store anything again there. Of course, you know the code. Just do local storage dot clear to clear everything that you stored in local storage. All right, so is that understood? We've gone through local storage. I don't want us to brush it before we use it to work. Is that clear now?
Hello, sir. Good
Yeah, go ahead.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Um, I'm trying to the stringified and pass is a little bit confusing. So I
Okay.
want to know if you want your values to be in form of string, you use stringified. Then if you want them to go back to their original format or
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening. Hello. I see your line is breaking. Maybe.
hello,
Yeah, your line was breaking. You say if you want them to go back to their original formats. I missed you from there.
yeah. Okay, so if we want them to go back to their original format, that is that when we use the pass dot
Yeah, just
pass.
JSON.press. Yeah.
Okay,
And you understand
okay,
why
okay. So
we are converting it back to the original format.
no, I think that's where my confusion starts. So why are we converting it to their original format if we already have them in their original? Why do we have to change them to string if we can just have them in the original format?
Okay. I said I explained it. I said local storage only accepts string. You can only store things as string. So if you want to store an array, if you want to store an object, you can only store it as a string. Now, if you put it into local storage without converting it, local storage on its own will store it as a string. So let's say you want to, yes. Let's say you want to use it for an operation. What you'll be seeing is a string. I'm echoing. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. So if you want to store it, if you want to work with local storage, you must store your variable as a string. Anything you want to store must be stored as a string. So that means if you want to store something successfully in local storage, you must have to first convert it into a string. Now, but for this our case, this is an object. We want it to remain an object, but we want to store it somewhere. And the rule for local storage says, I don't accept anything other than a string. So what do? We have to convert it to a string in order for it to be accommodated to local storage. Now, I close my browser. If I close my browser and shut down and open it, these things I stored will still be in my local storage. And I have stored them there, and I want to reuse them to do something else, another place in the app. The reason why we store information, when you go online and log in, let's say you log into Facebook, it's exactly what we explained. That is what happens in Facebook. Facebook has a database that holds your name. So the next time you come back and want to log in, you enter your name. What the database will do, it will retrieve it will retrieve the names of everybody stored in the database and will now use your own ID to compare with every other person's ID. It will now, the software will now be written in such a way that retrieve everything from our storage, check with this ID that this person is using to log in. If anyone matches, display his face, display all the information about the person. So now imagine that Facebook was using local storage and they store something like this that has your name. Let's say here we have your name, your age, the school you went to, everything, your picture. Now, if it is stored in their local storage, the next time they want to retrieve this your information, it will return back as a string, and you cannot perform some operations on string. For example, you cannot do. Okay, let me use an array, for example. You cannot do mapping for a string. It must be an array. You cannot do filter for a string. It must be an array. I don't know if you get me. So if you don't convert it, if you don't use parse, it will remain as a string. And you want to use it somewhere in your app, you'll be getting errors because this is how local storage stores it on this online 101. And this is not an array. This is a string. So I cannot do mapping on this now because it is a string. This thing is a string. So guys, is it clear?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. In the absence of any question, let's go ahead and see. I have to go through this so that we'll know where before we continue our app, so that when using it in our app, we'll not be confused. All right. So this is where our app is. What we successfully done is we've been able to enter a variable, get them out. Now we want to look for somewhere to be storing them. Because if we don't look for somewhere to store them, anything that is displayed here, as we know, anything displayed here. So let me go ahead. I can comment out all this. Comment out all this. Then make clear the local storage. Refresh. And I'll clear everything in local storage. So I don't have anything again. Okay. All right. So if you go back and check, you see I don't have anything in my local storage. This one is something stored by my browser, I guess. All right. So this key value is empty. All right. So back to our app that we're building. We've successfully been able to create something such that we can enter. If I enter the teach is displayed here. I enter. But before I continue, let me ask one question. Since local storage works very well and everything, why is it that okay, I'll ask the question later. Let's finish this first. It's, let's say, swim. We've done till this point. Now, what is happening here? We are getting okay. Let me just, all right. So at this point, where is our, this is our form. What we are telling our form is whenever we submit our form, what do we want to do? We want to grab the value of this input, push it to the array. You know, we have an array here ready to do this array that is empty for now. We want to push it to the array. Then we want to push it to the array. Then okay, display it here. After displaying it here, we then want to do that item. Okay, yeah, we'll display it there. This one goes back to empty. Then we'll set it to our local. They will now save it to our local storage. So whenever we enter it here, it is displaying here and it is saving to our local storage. But you see what happens here? In this case, it is not converted. So whatever we enter keeps overriding what was there before. Sorry. So sorry, we are pushing, we are saving the array in local storage. This array here, this array that we created here. So we are saving it back into local storage. But remember, the reason why it is appearing like this, as I said before, it is because we are not stringifying it. So because we are not stringifying it, the next time we need it, this is where we called it back. This is where we called it back, get to do's. But the reason, and it is this from here that we're displaying it on our screen. The reason why it's appearing like this is it is appearing as a string, not as an array. So you see the need, and what we want to do, we actually want it to appear as an array. We want to be able to do some array method, which we'll do now, and display it there. But see, we cannot do that because this is not how it is appearing. So our job now is to make sure it is converted to the proper format. And how do we do that? JSON.stringify. So over here I say JSON.stringify. And I wrap this. If I wrap it inside JSON.stringify, it is now stored as a string. Then if I want to retrieve it back here, whenever I do this local storage, I want to parse it at once. So I say JSON.parse. Okay. So this is where I stored it, and this is where I'm pressing it. Let me remove this guy now. Yeah, so let's refresh again and see. It will be empty now, so there will be nothing there. Yeah, our to do is empty now. Now, if I enter my first to do, okay, so I'm running, enter it, say it's, so it is, see, it is stored here. If I enter, well, not, if I enter sleep, okay, so it is stored here, but it's no longer displaying here. So let's fix that now. Okay, so we say when we push it to our array, just push to the array, they will do to do is go to item, we add it to the list of the item in the array value. Here we have to create a new paragraph with it. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so what I want to do now is instead of for every time I enter this value, see, for every time I enter this value, I don't want this to happen. Rather, what I want is remember that this my array now is whenever I enter, I am adding to the existing array. On line 42, I'm adding to the existing array. So what I want to do, I want to pick from that array and display here. I want to pick from that array that I entered and display here. What is this one? What is making this guy? Okay. There is a stored to do here. This is the stored to do here. So I don't want to enter, rather what I want to do is whenever that happens, I want to run this here. This one I commented at. And what is this? This one will simply take the individual element of the array, it's mapping that we've done before. Take individual element of the array. For each of the items, to take the first object. Remember that we've successfully converted it to an array here back. So when the app first loads, this is what we are doing now. When the app first loads on line 6, we form a to-do item. We form an empty to-dos array. Then, yeah, then on line 8, what we are doing is it will go to local storage and see if anything is stored in local storage. If there's something stored in local storage, we'll optimize this to work better. If there's anything stored in local storage, it will refresh, it will collect from there, store in this store to-dos. Now, this store to-dos is what I want to, this store to-dos is what I want to use in mapping these to-dos so that I can add the individual to-do to a paragraph. If I'm making sense. Is it clear or you're confused? I'm looking for the best way to explain this thing so it doesn't confuse all of us. Is it clear or I should explain again? Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. Can anybody hear me? My network. Hello?
So I'm with you, it's clear.
Okay. All right, so this is where we were before. At least we've dealt with the issue of local storage. Let's finish with that. We've dealt with local storage, and I believe it's well understood. Now, what we want to do next is any item we enter here, apart from sending it to this local storage, we also want it to display here. So in order to do that, we said our app first loads, we create a div element, we create all this, we create the paragraph. Then the inner text of the paragraph becomes what we derive from this stored array. So if I refresh, so I get it here, which is gotten from this stored array. Then okay, derived from the stored array, then it is appended to it's appended to this. Also appended, I append the to do to this and append this one to this. All right, so having done that, I now want to be able to, I don't like the way it's appearing. It's supposed to appear as individual elements, and it's because of this code here. So we need to use something else to make it appear as an individual, to make it appear as a block element, sorry. All right, so in order to do that, I can use the forEach method. If I use the forEach and I pass this into it, it will now make it appear, it will pick each of the item of the to-dos array and now display it as a block element in a paragraph. All right, so let's go ahead and say forEach, okay. We are going with stored to-dos, each method, and VS Code gives us what we need. All right, so what I'm simply trying to do is for each of them, I say okay, for each of them I say yeah, inner text. Okay. So I'm using this, then and I'm appending it to the paragraph to this and this. Okay. Yeah, let's run it for just one. And try to figure out where I'm collecting from the elements, the elements, create this. Okay, for each of the elements, you create this, make this the inner text. Okay. Then append each of the inner text. You append each one to this. Sorry, let me see. I think there's missing something. Append paragraph into this. Then yeah, there's something I'm missing. There's something I'm missing. Let me enter. Let's say run. Yeah, it is only saving to local. There's something we're missing. Yes, sorry, let me see. I think it's the way we place that variable that's causing this confusion. Let's start from the beginning. Once the app starts running, oh, this guy is empty. That's why. Oh, this guy is empty. Okay, I think I know where the problem comes. This guy is empty when we start. So each time you start a new load, each time you load your page, it takes the to-dos array to empty again, which is not supposed to be. So it takes it to empty. There is nothing retrieved from. It's retrieved this one from local storage. But since it's empty, whenever we push here, we get a new thing added. It is not added to the existing one. So sorry. So this guy is not supposed to be empty. We're supposed to populate it with whatever we get here. So this is supposed to be equal to stored to-dos. This is supposed to be equal to stored to-dos. Okay. So here we're supposed to have stored to-dos here. The to-dos arrays here. Sorry. That is that is what happens at times. Okay, so this is stored arrays. What happens here is, first of all, it is checking if there is something in local storage. If there is nothing, okay, what if local storage is empty? So let's say this guy should be equal to an empty array or this value. What we are doing, let me explain. What we are simply saying is that when the phase first of all runs, check if local storage, something exists in local storage. If something exists, please equate it to what to this. Well, if there's nothing existing there, then let our initial to do be an empty array. Okay, on this line. Then it continues. It forms this, we know this, we form this, we know this. Then when it gets to this point, it will now do, remember, you have the array here. So it will now do it for each method and try to create all these things in your for each method. Then which means whenever you now submit your form here, you are now populating this to-dos array and at the same time populating what you have in your local storage. Is it understood, please? Hello? Are you following me? Where is it? Felix, are you on this call?
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Sorry, I have to do some debugging here. Just bear with me if this is correct. Then this, not, then this. Nope, nope. Okay, this can be tricky. I'm saying that when the app starts, okay, sorry, okay. I have to do this. Okay, so what I'm saying, simply saying it on line 8, because the challenge is getting this guy to get the accurate figure, because this guy is supposed to get whichever data you fetch from you get from your local storage. Let's say you just opened your app and you restart your browser. Of course, you need it to fetch from this place. So, and that would be our to-dos array. So what we are simply doing here is that, what if this guy is empty? That's why we're putting this here. If this guy is empty, we are simply saying that if to do if stores to do's, or let me say if stores to do's dot length. I know we are used to this dot length, say, so let me use it at once. So if store to do's dot length equal to 0. If this is true, Did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why is it telling me I can't do that? Check if 0 should not. What was wrong with me? Okay, simply what I'm doing is I'm checking if stored todos.length is equal to 0. You know, if it's equal to 0, it means that there is nothing inside the array. If it's yes, you know, if it's, you know this ternary operator, if it's red, yes, you use the first variable. If it's no, you use the second variable. So what it's simply saying is that if store todos.length is equal to 0, then your todos arrays should be equal to store todos. Else, it should be equal to an empty array. All right, so this is what we are doing on this line 8. So we're doing this because we want a situation where when our app loads, this will first run. And if it first run, like we have drive here, it's supposed to appear here immediately. So in case this is 0, then this one should be equal to 0. So that once you enter your variable, you populate it. All right. So let me see. Why is it not giving us? Why is it showing still empty here? Sorry, that is sometimes it happens. I use one day to find one problem. Use array. Let me console log it. Not getting anything in it. A scene is empty, right? I guess that's why nothing is displaying there. Let's console log. Console log helps a lot in finding problems. Let's console log store to this. See what we get. Okay, start to this is giving us something. So why is this one giving us an empty? Okay, this time we soon wind up that we are actually debugging. So let's see. Let's say store to do dot length. Supposed to be 1. There's an element there, so that's why you see me going through all this. Let me know. Okay, is 1, which is correct. Okay, so wait, we are saying that if it is 0, which is true, then we are the ones causing problems. It's supposed to be if it is not 0, we are the ones causing problems for ourselves. Sorry for that. Yeah, it's supposed to be if it is not 0, that's if it is not empty, do this. If it is empty, do this. Now, this first option executes if the condition is true. So we are simply saying that if this thing is not 0, which will be true, so do this. So in this our case, it is true. Someone will refresh. We're supposed to get drive here. Exactly. This is what I was looking for. So we're the one making the mistake instead of doing negative. Right? So I would like to stop here today. I want us to look at local storage that we talked about. Please, let's look at it. And when we next to come finish this out to do app, we're almost there. Just to get these small errors sorted out. You see how this one took our time. We're supposed to do negative and we're doing equal to. So it was giving us true. And we are saying that if this is true, run this, and it was not true. That was why it was running the one behind, which is an empty array. Okay. So please, is it clear? We have less than 1 minute. Or do you have a question? If you have a question, we can do 30 minutes. But if you don't have a question, let me know, please. Quickly.
It's clear, sir, but you will help us and drop the video so that we can still go through it.
No problem, I'll do that.